Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take your chosen sources and really dig into them. We aim to cut through the noise, find those surprising insights, the crucial facts, and get straight to what matters for you. Today, you've handed us a really fascinating piece. It's called Write Weird Stuff on Writing the Way My Brain Was Made to Think by Jaime Hoerricks, PhD. And this isn't just about putting words on paper. It's actually a much deeper exploration of how our brains can process the world and, the power of embracing a kind of meaning that doesn't always fit in a neat box. So we're going to unpack this distinction the author makes between weird and weird. That spelling is important, W-Y-R-D. We'll look at its ancient roots, see how this idea echoes in different cultures, myths even, surprisingly, old computers. And then we'll connect it all back to thinking and creating today in a world that often just wants the quick summary.
Exactly. Our mission here is to explore why some really important ideas resist that easy categorization. And maybe what we gain by letting meaning unfold naturally instead of forcing it. It's about what the author calls the sacred pause before meaning.
Okay, let's jump right in where the author starts. There's a simple meme prompt. Write weird stuff. Standard internet stuff. But here's where it gets really interesting, because the author's mind immediately pivots. From weird, W-E-I-R-D, to weird, W-Y-R-D. So what's going on there? What is the difference, and why does this shift open up such a rich pathway?
Well, the etymology here is really key. Weird is Old English. It comes from the verb wirhan, which means to become.
Ah, to become. So not a thing, but an action.
Precisely. It's not like our modern idea of destiny or fate, which feels kind of fixed like a noun. Weird is a verb. It's motion. It's something already happening, already unfolding. The author uses that beautiful image like the wind in the heather. It's ongoing.
So it emphasizes the journey, the unfolding, not just the arrival point. That changes things.
It really does. Now, over time, centuries really, Wyrd sort of softened, warped into our modern word weird, meaning peculiar or maybe unsettling. Odd, exactly. But the author argues, and this is central, that something of its original breadth remained. So for them, weird with a Y isn't about oddness. It's about threshold. It's the liminal that charged just before a moment.
Okay, give me an example.
Think of the scent of rain before the storm has actually formed, or that specific hush in a room just before a difficult truth is spoken. The author says it's alive, unfolding, unfinal. It's this active space where things are coming into being.
Wow, that's a powerful idea. And this concept, weird as a space of potential, this just before, it's not just an Old English thing, is it? The author links it to similar ideas across different cultures. Can you walk us through a few of those connections?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the bigger picture, you see these remarkable echoes. Take Old Norse mythology. There's Ginnunga Gap. It's often called the yawning gap, this sort of primal void where all the worlds emerge from. It wasn't empty nothingness. It was seen as a sacred in-between full of potential.
Right, so like a charged emptiness rather than just absent.
Exactly. And the ancient Greeks had chaos. Now, today we think of chaos as just disorder, a mess. But originally, chaos was the chasm, the primordial wellspring from which everything else came forth, the source.
Okay, so the birthplace of order almost.
In a sense. And in a Hebrew tradition, you have tohu vavohu, describing that formless and void state before creation began. Again, potential.
And what about Eastern philosophies? Does this idea of a fertile void show up there too?
Oh, very much so. In Chinese Taoism, you have the concept of wu. It can mean non-being or non-doing, but it's understood as the underlying field from which all things arise naturally, without force. And that connects to wei acting, by not forcing, but aligning.
Aligning with the flow.
Right. And then in Sanskrit, there's shunyata. It's often translated as an emptiness, but a better understanding is empty of fixity. It means nothing is permanent. Everything is allowed to change and emerge. It's a truly fertile void.
Empty of fixity, I like that. And the Japanese concept of ma, that feels related too.
Definitely. Ma is all about the space between. Think of the silence between notes and music that gives the music shape, or the pause in conversation that adds meaning. The author points out that Wyrd lives there too, between the steps, between the words.
It's everywhere once you start looking for it.
It seems to be. Even the Akan people of Ghana talk about Kra, the soul's essence that exists outside language. Or in Ireland, there's Imbus, which is like poetic knowledge that comes from somewhere else.
Yeah.
It all points to this universal recognition of a space before structure, a space of becoming.
Okay, this is fascinating. Let's unpack this even more. The author makes another really interesting connection between Wyrd and a blank rune. Now, I know that's a modern addition to runes, not ancient, so why does the author find it so resonant?
That's a great question, and it gets to the heart of it. Why add a blank rune, often called Wyrd, to these ancient systems? The author suggests it's not a mistake or ignorance, but actually a kind of remembering. It's acknowledging that sometimes no existing symbol, no existing word can quite capture what's arriving, what's emerging.
So you leave a space for it.
Exactly. You leave a space, and it's not just an empty gap. It's described as a gesture, a kind of quiet hum.
Yeah.
It represents weird in its purest state, unfixed, uncollapsed, unresolved. It's that place where meaning is still gathering itself in the dark.
Gathering itself in the dark. I like that. And this whole idea of the not yet holding something unformed, this connects directly to the author's own experience, their neurotype.
Absolutely. The author identifies as autistic and as a gestalt language processor, or GLP.
Okay, what does that mean in this context?
Well, they explain that for GLP minds, meaning doesn't arrive step by step, like building with bricks, it arrives all at once, like a scent on the wind.
Like the whole picture flashes in?
Sort of, yes.
Yeah.
They say, we don't construct, we gestalt. We don't decode, we feel the pattern. It's holistic. So their minds naturally dwell in Wyrd.
Yeah.
They operate comfortably in that unfolding, not yet fully formed space.
That makes a lot of sense. And then there's this incredible, almost left field connection the author makes to a Soviet computer from the 1950s. How on earth does ternary computing relate to Wyrd?
It's actually a brilliant connection. They talk about the Seton computer. Unlike our binary computers, zeros and ones, yes or no, Seton used ternary logic. It had 3 states, +1, -1, and crucially, 0.
Zero, the middle space.
Exactly. That 0, that middle space, that neutral or pivot point is described by the author as a word. And apparently this ternary system was more elegant, faster, more energy efficient. Pretty advanced for the time.
So why didn't it catch on? We all use binary now.
Well, the author suggests one reason is that capitalism likes clarity, categorization, yes or no. Binary fits that model better. The ternary system, with its middle 0 state, required a certain patience for maybe, for the unresolved.
So that 0, that word state in the logic, becomes a symbol for potential, for the state before a definite answer.
Precisely. It's not absence, but potential.
Mm-hmm.
The author calls it the womb of the waveform, or like a quantum state unobserved, before it collapses into a definite outcome.
Wow.
So this connection really highlights that robust systems, whether they're about language or logic or anything else, they need that room for the not yet. They need a way to acknowledge, okay, no existing symbol fits perfectly here, but something is still happening.
And for thinkers like the author, that space isn't just some edge case.
No, for GLP thinkers, the author argues it's central. It's fundamental to how they perceive and process reality.
Okay, so it's clear Wyrd isn't just some abstract philosophical idea for the author. It's deeply personal. It's like the very texture of their thinking and their writing. How does this actually show up in their creative work? How does writing in a Wyrd way actually work in practice?
Yeah, it's fundamental. The author is clear.
Yeah.
Their writing isn't meant to be weird in that dismissive sense, just odd or confusing. It's weird. It represents the shape before the fit was forced. It's authentic to its own becoming. And it doesn't ask you, the reader, to just decode it linearly like a puzzle. It asks you to be walked with, to experience it unfolding.
Can you give us an example or two from their work? How does this walking with feel?
Sure. They mention a poem called Awakening in Starlight. They say it wasn't written so much as revealed. It emerged during a time of personal change, a state that felt liminal, radiant, unnameable. The language had to come slowly, in a spiral. Each line is meant to carry not a message, but a vibration. So you're meant to feel it, resonate with it, rather than just extract a meaning.
Feel it rather than just understand it intellectually. Okay.
Exactly. Another example is a poem called Expat from Varensland. It's about feeling misfiled in this world, like you don't have a neat origin story. Mm-hmm. And this Varensland, it's described as a country of pause, of echo, of space before structure. You can't pin it down with coordinates. So the poem has to gesture toward it, spoken slant, as Emily Dickinson might say. It evokes rather than defines.
So these pieces, they deliberately avoid tidy conclusions. They leave things open.
Very much so. They unfold. They arrive like weather. The author calls them more invocation than statement. They actively resist that pressure we often feel to resolve things too quickly, to categorize them neatly. They are shaped by becoming, not by category. They are written, fundamentally, to be felt.
Right. And this brings us to a really crucial tension, doesn't it? How does this whole weird way of thinking, of writing, of being, stand against our modern culture? You know, what the author calls compression culture, where everything needs to be a soundbite, a tweet, a quick summary, the TLDR.
Yes. This is a core conflict the author explores. And they offer a powerful counter-narrative, maybe best captured in their poem, Wyrd is not a summary. Apparently, the poem itself was written spontaneously, in a moment of just being porous, letting things flow. So the creation process itself was weird.
Okay, so what does this poem tell us? What is Wyrd not, according to it? It sounds like a kind of manifesto against compression.
It really does. It states clearly, Wyrd not for what it means, but for what it doesn't. And then it lists things. Wyrd does not resolve. It does not behave. It does not fit neatly in a bullet point or a caption or the hunger for gist.
The hunger for gist? Yeah, we feel that everywhere.
We do. Instead, the poem says, Wyrd breathes, it hums. It is the moment before pattern, the inhale before form. It refuses to be pinned down.
And how does it tackle compression head-on? Where's the direct challenge?
It sets up a direct contrast. Compression asks, what's the point? We hear that all the time, right? Get to the point. And the poem says, Wyrd answers, exactly, kind of turning the question back on itself. Yeah. Compression wants a straight line, efficiency. But Wyrd is a spiral. Compression demands, cut it down, make it useful, say it faster, say less, all about reduction. But the poem pushes back hard. Wyrd is not less. Wyrd is everything before it fractures into pieces.
Wow. Everything before it fractures into pieces. That suggests compression actually destroys something vital.
That's the implication, that in the rush to summarize, to make it neat and small, we lose the wholeness, the potential, the very essence of the thing.
And this clearly connects back to the author's own identity, their way of being in the world. They describe themselves as coming from the liminal, the unsummarized.
Exactly. Carrying gestalts, not outlines, speaking in echoes, not conclusions.
Their thoughts gather like crows, not lining up neatly.
Right, that holistic, all-at-once processing we talked about. And this is why the author says they carry such a fierce tenderness for the empty rune, that blank space. Because sometimes, living in a world that demands constant clarity and quick answers, they say, I need the sacred permission to say, I'm not ready to resolve this. Sometimes the meaning is still becoming, sometimes I am too.
That's incredibly powerful and relatable, I think, for many of us.
And the final punchline is, you cannot compress what is not yet finished becoming. It's simply not possible without doing violence to the process.
This whole deep dive, it really offers a new lens, doesn't it? A way to view thinking, writing, maybe even just experiencing life. It champions a process that's often slowly, spirally, through echoes and images, instead of demanding that instant outline or summary.
It suggests that maybe the richest insights, the deepest understanding, actually comes from allowing that space, that word space, for things to unfold. And maybe that's why this way of being, this word approach, doesn't fit neatly into our usual metrics of productivity or marketability. It's not designed to be pithy or easy to digest. It's about, as the author puts it, a being with instead of the getting to.
A being with, not a getting to.
Yeah. The author concludes, Wyrd isn't a strategy, it's a way of being. It's an invitation, really.
So here's something for you to think about as you go about your week. Where in your own life, maybe in your work, in your relationships, in your own thinking, where might you benefit from allowing things to be a bit more Wyrd? What could emerge if you consciously resisted that urge to compress everything, to summarize it, to finalize it too quickly? What if you embraced the unfolding, the not yet, that sacred in-between? Could allowing for the unresolved, for the meaning that's still becoming, actually lead you to a deeper truth than any quick summary ever could? Something to ponder.